I am so happy to be with you all, and I just want to just thank you so much for this opportunity to meet with you and to talk about resilience in adolescents and young adults with cancer. Um, Thank you so much. I was in, I want to thank you for inviting me to New Zealand. I have been here once before. My husband and I were there, and you have a beautiful country, and I'm very happy to have a sense of what your beautiful country is like. Thank you. This is some pictures of where we are at Indiana University. So during our time together, I'm going to talk with you about ways to foster resilience in children in the midst of their having an illness. Um, um, and my work has been guided by a focus on resilience in illness and a model. And what I'm going to talk about today are the 5 protective factors. There are in my research we found that there are 5 things that help um, children and families to do well and protect them in the midst of having cancer. And there are 2 risk factors, which are oftentimes what parents and children mostly focus on, is their illness related distresses, their symptoms, and their uncertainty, and also their defensive coping, that sense that adolescents especially have of kind of wanting to um, cope by not dealing with what's in front of them. So I'm going to talk primarily about what are the things that help families to and children and adolescents to get through cancer and to come out of that experience with resilience and ability to self transcend or rise above the experience. Um, so there are 2 perspectives, and I think of those somewhat like Winnie the Pooh, an ER perspective where things are all bad, and that's kind of like the defensive coping, and a Tigger perspective. Nothing can go wrong if everything is right, and everything is right now. Everything is right now. So that's kind of the difference in thinking about those things. The usual way that we think about cancer and illness in general is an illness related perspective. So often when there's a cancer diagnosis and it's very it's serious. Cancer is always serious. But oftentimes what we end up doing is focusing on the illness, its treatments, and just focusing on the medical model of things in terms of the risks, morbidity, delays, and it's kind of an additive model where everything is going um, just one thing after another and kind of piling up in many ways. And what is missing is the value, the meaning, and the values of things. I'm going to make this as a full screen here for you all to see. Um, so uh, let's go on to the next slide then. I think that I'm not able to do that. There we go. So I'll go this way. This is crazy. So patterns, what's missing is meaning and values, the patterns and experiences of illnesses. So families have a lot of understanding of the situation, autonomy, beliefs, choices, and relationships that are important to getting through the cancer experience. And function then is viewed within a meaning-based model instead of like, okay, focusing just on the physical and the cancer itself, but what's the meaning of those things in one's life? What is meaningful, important to you as parents, and your child with cancer, your siblings, the siblings, your extended family, the healthcare providers, and your community. But the most important thing to think about being resilient in the midst of that is to focus on what is meaningful to folks. This is a picture of my husband, who was a 40-year cancer survivor. He was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease when he was a teenager. And we had 40 years, we celebrated our 40th anniversary before he died, and he lived well up until the time that he died from late effects of his cancer. But the efforts to gain understanding of ways individuals sustain or regain um, optimal health is through a sense of the presence of wellness as well as the absence of disease. An emphasis on primary prevention and positive health promotion considers the strengths that you bring to the situation, and also um, as well as address as a way to address problems, but just thinking more broadly than getting all focused on the cancer. Life is so much more than that for folks. Resilience is as a process. My work on resilience. I found that there is resilience as process and resilience as outcomes. And what I'm going to spend most of my time with today, in terms of our talking, is about the resilience process. And those protective factors are spiritual perspective, hope-derived meaning, family environment, the social integration, which means how you're outside of your family environment, the support that is there, and courageous coping. And those are to help balance the illness-related stressors. Those are always there, the symptom distress and illness and uncertainty and defensive coping, and of course all that goes into the treatments themselves in order to achieve a positive health outcomes of resilience. It's kind of this, yes, I can, yes, I did it. So resilience's outcome is characterized by a sense of mastery and accomplishment and competency. So even in the midst of difficult situations of being treated for cancer, we've seen so many children and adolescents and young adults who have the sense of accomplishment and competency. They have motivation to take care of themselves, acknowledging and accepting that they have things that they have to deal with, but finding those inner strengths and also the strengths of their family and all those protective factors to help them to get through that experience. And the ability to rise above the illness so that it's not the illness itself that defines who you are. It is part of what you've experienced, but not what is everything about you. It's also then as there is an outcome of desire to reach out and help others. And that's one of the things that we've noticed with adolescents who are resilient, is that they often do want to do a lot of giving back to others. Now this is a very complex model. The only thing I want to, this is my science piece of it, is that you'll see these things. Spiritual perspective has an influence on everything. If you look at these number of stars that are in everything, that means how important spiritual perspective is. That was a surprise to me in my research, but that has become very strong, and it still continues to be important. Even in places like China, we're doing some work over in China and finding the same thing with our adolescents over there, the research that we're doing in Asian countries. Social integration, hope-derived meaning. So I'm going to talk a lot about those things. So those are up there, and they don't go away, but they can be overcome by some of these other things. So think about this as the things that help you grow, the green, and to get rid of these things that are on fire for you. And so these are my color coding, and to have blue skies in the future as you're dealing with this. So I'm going to talk about each one of these protective factors in specific ways, and I'm going to go through each one of these little pictures that is on here in specific to each of these protective factors. So let's talk first about spirituality. Spirituality is the aspect of humanity that refers to the ways individuals seek and express meaning and purpose, and the way they experience their connectedness to the moment, to themselves, to others, to nature, and to the significant or sacred. So spiritual perspective is very broad, and this is one example from. So I'm going to give you examples that are from some work we did, an intervention that we did with a music therapy intervention where adolescents and young adults made a music video, and this is a so they picked a song from a genre of songs, but they made their own, wrote their own lyrics to that song, and then they put pictures with the songs, and then they recorded the songs, and it was then made into a DVD for them to describe their experiences. So I've got some quotes from some of those songs for you, and this was a song from a 22-year-old, words in his lyrics that illustrate that protective factor of spiritual perspective, where he had things in his song. Oh God, may my life bring you glory in all my days. May it be a testimony to others in my life. So that idea of that spiritual perspective and the importance of that, and it's connected us in many ways, not just religion or something like that, but spiritual perspective. The next really important protective factor is hope-derived meaning. And that is the degree to which the child and the family use hope to find meaning from their cancer experience. And this is an example from our music therapy of how that happened. We found ourselves on the course. There was pain, there was glory. Think of that. So these are pictures that the adolescents put into their videos about things that were important, to what gave them hope and gave them meaning in life. So obviously athletics was something, their graduation and being able to speak at that, so their school experiences. In the videos, the adolescents, young adults identified many ways that they found that they derived meaning from their experience. And that's different for each individual, and it's different for each family. But it is important to find and talk about what is important, what meanings can you find from this experience. I know that there's all of the meanings that are stressful and difficult, but also finding what do you hope for, and what are your goals and aspirations and determinations of finding hope for doing things well. Social integration is a pretty is an important factor as well, and that's the people outside of your family. And it's also a protective factor. It's the degree to which the patient and family perceive a sense of connectedness with and support from their friends and healthcare providers in the midst of having cancer. If we were going to were able to have dialogue in this presentation, I would ask you about who those people are, and if as you can turn this presentation off for for minutes to talk about those kind of things, support from those folks, and how that has influenced you. There's also perceived social support from friends, and as well as healthcare providers. And so examples of that is a profile-based intervention to connect the healthcare providers and the adolescents and young adults. There's social media ways of doing that. There's toolkits for friends of adolescents with young adults. There's lots of ways to keep that social integration going, but it is really important for adolescents and children in general to get that sense of the normality of connections with their peers, no matter where they are. These are some lyrics from a 15-year-old Christina in her video that she talked about, and this was her song lyrics. She was on a basketball team, so hear the cheer of the basketball fans. They're screaming and shouting for their team. They scream, they shout for their team to fight today. I know we're feeling down, but we got to pick it up. This is the final game of the rest of the season to victory. So that idea of social integration and getting that help from others and so forth is really an important piece of adolescent resilience. Family environment, I think, is probably one of the most important, actually, probably one of the most important. The degree to which the patient and family members perceive the family as adaptable, cohesive, effectively communicating, and having family strengths. So the sense that they have family strengths. Now, in the midst of having cancer, and especially with teenagers, let's face it, raising teenagers is not easy no matter what. Um, they're challenging. They're needing to move away from parents to expand their horizons. Um, but when they are sick, they need their parents, but they also need to have that. And their protectiveness of their parents is at a very different level with cancer. So, and sometimes they end up struggling with that because they, are beginning to gain their independence, and then they're back, and really, family is really, really important to them. Um, but I love this. This is a video of Samantha made and her mom. And I think it's really important, this wisdom from this adolescent. I love my mom. She takes care of me, and when I need it, she just lets me be. You see, she's been through everything with me. So these are literally the words that were in these videos that these kids made. I'm not sure if I can play this for you or not. Maybe I can. If I can, we'll do that. That'll be fun. Let me see. It's not coming up now. No, we're not getting that on the. Let me see. Not able to get that for you. I'm sorry about this technology not being so good. Okay, next. Now it's not even moving. Okay, next. So family environment. I just thought I'd share some of myself. This is family environment is so important again, and that's your extended family as well. This is a picture of my my grandmother and my mother. My mother here is now this mom who is 100 years old, and living with me. My husband died of his cancer, as I told you. So family environment is really important, and I thought I'd just share that with you. And this is, and all families have their moments. These are my kids all gathered together in our backyard, and you can see that they decided to have both kind of the opening dialogue with them all being happy, but also them also making their like, oh my gosh, families are like that. And I thought this was a perfect example just for my own family of how there's always both sides of things, and so that is normal. It's just sometimes in the presence of cancer and illness, going back and forth a little bit more, and struggles of families to find that balance. But do remind yourselves as parents that this is normal. And so if they pull away from you a while, that's okay. Um, and it's just as much as you can. The thing that I want to talk with you about most of all is opening the dialogue and using strategies to do that. So one of the things that you want to try to do a lot is to use open-ended comments instead of just kind of like asking them questions. So when they say something to you, try and use words like, tell me more about that, or how was that for you, or how do you feel about that, instead of like having this back and forth of trying to teach them. So instead of teaching them, using active listening skills is a really important strategy, and we've actually done some research on ways to help families, parents. We did a study just for family communication to help them to learn those ways to open dialogue with their adolescent by commenting instead of giving them the answers to things when they ask you about something. ask them, tell me more about that, or what do you think about it, or how is that for you? Comments like that instead of teaching them. Because teaching is, that's something adolescents really want to do, learn from their parents. But when you open the dialogue with them with open-ended questions like, tell me more about that, you'll get much better information from your adolescents. So active listening to identify the thoughts and feelings, acknowledging feelings, giving feelings a name, and acknowledging your teen or young adult's wishes, even if it's impossible. So, so active listening is tell me more about and those kind of things, and then acknowledging feelings that must have been hard, or having or difficult. That's giving the feeling a name, hard, but acknowledging that this is difficult, and but then this really is important. This fourth one is this idea of even if it's impossible, you can say, I wish that this could happen for you. You can always say, I wish that would happen. And when kids come up with things that you think, oh my gosh, what are they thinking about? You can always say, I wish that that was okay, that would happen. Even if it's impossible, it's okay, because then you're like connecting with your adolescent. And it's so important that you can do that in the midst of cancer. So try and think about acknowledging what their wishes are. Even just, I sure wish we could do that. Even it is if it's impossible, saying, I so wish that that would be possible. Really important, wonderful strategy you can use. So openers for dialogue. Tell me about, fill in the blank, whatever. So that's one of the strategies. So just tell me about whatever it is. Tell me what having has been like for you. I really want to hear about. So those are some words that you can use. I'm sorry, I didn't. Oh, how do I go back on this? There we go. Examples of specific comments, or what about having cancer do you wonder about? Tell me about what worries you right now. I wonder what's most upsetting to you. So it's just that I wonder, what about, tell me about. Open and close, open-ended questions and comments encourage conversations. Closed-ended questions and comments do not. They do not, you don't learn more about what your adolescence is thinking when you use closed-ended questions. To check if your comments or questions is closed-ended, ask yourself, can this be answered with a yes or no, or a single word or phrase? Now, this takes some practice and thinking about this, and I'm going to share, I'm going to send these in this PowerPoint to you so that you can share that with each other, and maybe in your group practice some of these things. This doesn't come natural to us as parents. Believe me, when I was raising my teens who are now in their 40s, but it is so important when we can have these kind of conversations. So example, if you can be, to check if your comment or question is closed-ended, can it be answered with a yes or no, or a single word or phrase? And examples of those, is there anything bothering you? The answer would be no. So just, tell me what's bothering you. So just instead of a yes and no question, so that yes and no questions don't really work for open-ended. Step 2 is acknowledge feelings with the words or sounds. So you don't have to name these things. Just saying, oh, or I see, or uh-huh, or wow, or let them know that you were listening to them by not like giving a big like long sentence afterwards, but sometimes it's just, wow, tell me more. Those kind of words. Keep the dialogue going by giving the feelings a name. Use phrases or phrase comments to keep the dialogue open. So to try an uncertain observation about what you heard, or another open-ended comment. So examples. So to keep the dialogue going, you might say, You seem most upset about whatever. Tell me what's hard for you about that. You seem to have less interest in. Help me understand what that means for you now. Are you are missing out on so many things. I'm wondering what you think that means for you. So you're not like telling them or making, but you're just giving that opportunity to open dialogue with you more. You seem discouraged about that. What do you think might happen? Tell me what's going on in your thinking. Avoid why questions. Why they're harder to answer, and they can discourage your adolescent from opening up. So why do you think this is not a really good, it's not as helpful for you to open dialogue and to learn more about what your adolescents are experiencing. Step 4 is acknowledging your child's wishes, even if it's something impossible. Again, that idea of let your child know of your support by giving in fantasy what's impossible in reality. I wish you didn't have to have these treatments. That's not saying you're not going to. It's just, and we often want to, well, it's really important that you get this, whatever, because if you don't, whatever. But if you just say, I wish you didn't have to, it just kind of lets your adolescent or young adult know that you are, in that place with them. If I had my way, you would be able to. So that's another thing that you can say. If I had my way, it would just be just what you want. And that just helps them know that you are aligned with them. And wouldn't it be great if that would happen? Whatever their wishes are, whatever it is that they want, you don't have to say, well, that's not right. That's never going to happen, or those kind of things. And I've raised 3 girls, and I know those kind of conversations don't work really well, but it took me a long time to learn that. So I'm hoping that this will maybe help you, especially in the midst of having a child with cancer. This child, it's a powerful tool to support your child. Even though you can't make your wishes happen, by stating them, you let them know that of your support. Don't worry about giving false hopes. You aren't. You're simply saying, if I could, I would make this better. It's not like it's just you're in their court. And to encourage dialogue, keep the emphasis on your conversation on listening. Try to avoid using comforting or teaching. Really, really important that adolescents, young adults really don't want to be taught anything, and they don't want you to be, well, honey, it's going to be okay. They just really mostly want, this is a better way to open that dialogue with them. And it's so important for you as you're trying to understand what they are going through and what they need and want. Next. Okay, courageous coping. The degree to which adolescents and young adults find and learn and use effective coping strategies. So there are 3 coping strategies that confront, and these are all positive. These are good things. So confrontive in this way means learn to deal with it. Confrontive, like I'm going to figure out how to get through this. Optimistic, the glass is half full instead of, oh my gosh, an Eeyore perspective. And supportant. Supportant means feeling comfortable reaching out and asking for support and help when they need it. So those courageous coping is really important for them to learn ways to do that and help them to do that. So the example of that expressed by one of the adolescents in another music therapy video was, somebody once told me, how can you do this task? I said, you just have to do it yourself. I have to be strong, I have to be tough, and I'll know when I've had enough. We could all use some kind of cure. And so this is their expression of their positive coping, and the fact that they understand themselves of what they're going through. So adolescents really do have that within them. But your job is to use effective helping them to deal with it with confrontive learning about it, optimistic, thinking about what is good, and support and reaching out and accepting help. So watch in your adolescents and young adults for how they're doing that. How are they learning to deal with it? Are they thinking glasses half full or half empty, and reaching out and accepting, and are they willing to reach out? Now, I know that there's some kids that are just, they're, teenagers are often like worry about their help, what people think of them. So this idea of supporting and reaching out and accepting support, it can be done, but it has to be done in ways that it's like not preachy or like they're just so needy or something like that. But just letting them know that they that they are able to do things, and helping them to think about the good things that are happening with that. A lot of times, even the Make-A-Wish and those kind of things, those are the things that you know how those raise the kids up. Well, that's the same thing. It's these kind of things that are doing that for them. Courageous coping. Resilience and self-transcendence, those are the outcomes that we look for in adolescence, and that's what we're hoping for. And this is, again, somebody once asked, how can you do this task? You just have to do it yourself. You have to be strong. I have to be tough, and I'll know when I've had enough. We could all use some kind of cure. It's a 12-year-old's video, and you think of that level of understanding at this point. It's just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to play a video now for you. I hope this one works for you. And it's called Chemo Kid Rock, and that is this is Heather's video, that one that you just heard. I hope these will play for you. Oh, please, 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 let these play. Oh, don't tell me. Oh, this is just killing me that this is not working. Oh, here, now, maybe we can do it now. Or maybe not, just did another video. Okay, let's try it again. No, it's still not working. I'm so sorry, guys. So as I was looking at them, thinking, what the heck just happened to me? Well, your meds start pushing. This goes too fast. Doesn't make sense. Your brain gets smart, but your body gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with my body? You never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, I'm a cancer patient. Get your pole on, go play. Hey now, I'm a chemo kid. Get the show on, get well. All that glitters is gold. Only your mind can break the mold. I wish I'm a terrible singer, and I'm sorry. It's a good place. They say it gets better. I really sick, but I will get better. My stomach gets upset, judging from the food that the kitchen sent. Thinking about my dogs, thinking about my cats, thinking about my friends and family. When I'm blue, I think of them because they are important to me. Hey now, I'm a cancer patient. Get your plate. Hold on, go play. So this is just one video of that experience of the positive ways that adolescents and young adults are, getting through their experience. And this is through music therapy that's showing them that those things. So these are some of the things that are meaningful to the kids. We'll just go through the rest of them. This goes for quite a way, and then it's more of the same on that one. So we'll go on to the next one. This is another one. I don't know why these are not working on here. Let's see if that'll do it. I don't know. This is my fight. This is a 15-year-old who is from Atlanta, Georgia, and he his song is called "My Fight," and I'll try and sing it for you since I can't get this working on this way of doing things. So this is he's a football player, and he's an athlete in many ways, obviously. So he starts out, and I've got courage on a painful day. When it's hard at times, I've still got joy in the day. Now you got to figure out the words that go with, this lyric, this song, music goes, I guess y'all will say, what can make me feel this way? My courage, my heart, my God, talking about my fight, my fight. I've got so much faith, the angels protect me. I've got positivity and it runs through me. I guess you all will say, can make me feel this way, my skirt. So I so wish you could hear the lyrics from this. I don't know why I can't get that working, but um, so this was a 15-year-old African American, lived in Atlanta, and um, he then he shows pictures of himself and what he's doing in his life. And so the kids, the thing to remember is they are full of all sorts of other things in their life, and if we can help them to connect onto those things, the better. So Albert's words, and then I, you know, from the resilience and illness model, remember I had that color coding, painful. The red was the risk factors, the blue is the outcomes, and the green is the protective factors. And you can see in his lyrics, just based on the colors, that I've got courage on a painful day when it's hard at times. I've still got joy in the day. I guess you all say, what could make me feel this way? My courage, my heart, my God. So he's looking at all those things that are helping him. I'm talking about my fight. I've got faith. That's a spiritual perspective. I've got positivity and the positive coping. And I've got all the support so this is family support and from my family and friends. So you've got all those in there. Now, believe me, my model was developed well before these kids did these videos, because we were using the model to guide the evaluation of this. But this is just what we never told them what to say, but it just fits perfectly with that resilience model. And that's true of most of the videos that we saw. So I think that's about the end of what I have to share with you in terms of the presentation. I want to acknowledge the funding sources that we've had over the years for this work.